and plan a rebellion, Azazel decided to join him. During the rebellion, Azazel fought and killed many of his brothers, later admitting that he had a taste for killing because it was fun. Following the defeat of the rebellion, Azazel was one of the angels to fall and preserve his grace, though losing his wings and with weakened powers. When Lucifer began the angel experiments, Azazel went through the experiments and became the first prince of hell. Azazel is an evil spirit of the wilderness to which a scapegoat was sent by the ancient Hebrews in a ritual of atonement. In the Bible, the name Azazel appears in association with the scapegoat rite. The name represents a desolate place where a scapegoat bearing the sins of the Jews during Yom Kippur was sent. This is seen in Leviticus 16 to 6:10. Aaron shall offer the bull of the sin offering for himself, and shall make atonement for himself and his house. He shall take the 2 goats and set them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron shall cast lots on the 2 goats, 1 lot for the Lord, and the other lot for Azazel. Aaron shall present the goat on which the lot fell for the Lord, and offer it as a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement over it, that it may be sent away into the wilderness to Azazel. New Revised Standard Version. During the end of the Second Temple period, his association as a fallen angel responsible for introducing humans to forbidden knowledge emerged due to Hellenization. Christian narrative and interpretation exemplified in the Book of Enoch. His role as a fallen angel partly remains in Christian and Islamic traditions. The Book of Enoch and the Apocalypse of Abraham reveals a tradition in which Azazel was regarded as a demon, and in which the scapegoat rite was utilized as a symbol of demonic expulsion. Hence, it will be argued that a segment of ancient Jewish apocalypticists found a symbol of eschatological victory over demonic forces in the rite involving Azazel and the scapegoat. His name means strong one against God. Was he a very real force of evil? It was common for them to make sacrifices to Azazel at the same time that they made sacrifices to their God Yahweh. As described in the Hebrew Bible, Azazel's sacrifices were made by driving a goat into the desert wilderness, or by pushing it into a deep ravine. These sacrifices were not meant to honor Azazel as a deity. Rather, they symbolized the people sending their sins back to their source. Azazel was regarded as a fighter, and Seventh-day Adventists acknowledge Azazel as Satan's right-hand man, and claim that a special kind of torment awaits him on the day of judgment. When it comes to the history of this awful destructive angel, a lot can be said about him from the Book of Enoch and the historical books. Based on biblical references, the understanding of the fallen angel Azazel began with an age-old tradition rooted in the Bible that took place once a year on Yom Kippur. On that day, a day of atonement and fasting, the high priest was permitted to enter the Holy of Holies in the temple and bring with him a sacrifice to the God of Israel. After leaving the temple, he cast lots for the 2 goats. The first would be sacrificed to God on the spot, and the second would be sent into exile to Azazel after all the sins of Israel had been transferred to it. The casting of the lot symbolized God's choice of the Sir Azazel, the scapegoat, to be sent to exile to Azazel. He was said to be a lesser demon that fed on the sins of people. From the Book of Enoch, the first book of Enoch retells the story cited in Genesis 6 of the angels who had relations with the daughters of men. The offspring of their unnatural union were the Nephilim, giants of renown who filled the earth. Enoch, the 7th generation between Adam and Noah, is naturally the central figure of this book, and is chosen to bring God's message to the rebellious angels. One of those evil angels, and second in importance only to their leader Shemazai, is our Azazel. Azazel's influence on mankind is destructive and eternal. He taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. He teaches humans not only how to make weapons of war, he also shows them the power of artifice and hypocrisy. And as a result of this destructive influence, there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they have led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Azazel was a high-ranking demon, described as one of the two beings on list A of demons, the other being Lilith. Azazel was incredibly high in the hierarchy of hell, being an heir to the throne of hell, surpassed only by Lucifer and Lilith, and led the plan to free Lucifer. History said he had various abilities like demonic possession. He even possessed angels and needed to have a host at a high level of power. He was said to cause storms, large temperature fluctuations, and hisses of wind, which only some demons can conjure. After his banishment from heaven, Azazel was one of the causes of the biblical flood. In the first book of Enoch, he led humans into sin, so God instructed the archangels to punish them. Uriel was to warn Noah about the flood, while Raphael received specific instructions to deal with Azazel. Azazel is so evil anything associated with him is hellish. His name is synonymous with hell or Gehenna in the Jewish tradition. Azazel has close ties to the desert. There's a namesake valley in Israel. But most significantly, Azazel relates to having to spend eternity in the hot, dark pits of hell. Azazel is considered one of the watchers in the book of Enoch. He closely associates with the serpent in the Garden of Eden who tempted Eve. But Azazel usually appears as a goat, a scapegoat. Dedicated to Azazel and sometimes turned loose, scapegoats symbolically carry the burden of others' sins. In the book of Watcher, he was sent to watch over mankind, and to see that all was well amongst humanity. Chapter 6 of the book of Enoch tells us that the children of men had multiplied, like the book of Genesis says that the angel saw this daughter of men, and lusted over them, and sinned against God. Azazel was said to teach mankind secretive information, which they were not meant to be privy to, and these giants days wickedness upon mankind. Azazel was noted to be the only fallen angel that taught mankind but was used for was noted as the angel that led men away despite the other angels doing the same thing. Many believe that Azazel was a leader of the Watchers, or at least high enough that he commands the same respect from the angels as Satan. Azazel was the one that brought the idea of warfare to man. All sin and wickedness are inscribed to Azazel because he is the only one out of all the Watchers that disclosed the secret of weapons. Among all the Watchers, he was believed falsely that Azazel was allowed into heaven at some time. The book of Enoch brings Azazel into connection with the biblical story of the fall of the angels, located on Mount Hermon, a gathering place of demons of old. Azazel is one of the leaders of the rebellious Watchers in the time preceding the flood. He taught women the act of deception by ornamenting the body, dyeing the hair, painting the face with their eyebrows, and also revealed to the people the secrets of witchcraft and leading them to wickedness and impurity until he was at Yahweh's command bound hand and foot by the archangel Raphael and chained to the rough and jagged rocks of Dedel, where he abides in utter darkness until the great judgment, when he will cast to the lake of fire to be consumed. While details vary from faith to faith, Azazel allegedly appears in all Abrahamic religions, including Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In the book of Leviticus, 2 selected goats served as sacrifices. One goat was a sacrifice for Yahweh, and the other was for Azazel. Cast lots decided which goat went to which figure, and ultimately, the goat allocated to Azazel ended up sent out into the wilderness. In Judaism, Azazel is supposedly the absolute embodiment of impurity. In Christianity, Azazel associates with Satan. Thus, he's evil personified, which Jesus Christ is to vanquish on Judgment Day.
Much love,
In
Israel.
Islam,